Hi everyone, it's Fred again from Notes of a Nomad, video number 310. Today I want to talk about my the influence and the impact and my contact that I've had with the Scout movement over the years. In um, Thunder Bay, when I was 11 years old, I joined the Scouts, and then when we moved in 1956 to Vancouver, I continued in the Scouts, and that's where I met Ken Lockhart, who owns the Sea Holly, the boat here. And last week I was with Ken with my daughter from Australia and my granddaughter who lives near Ken as well. And it just shows you over 60 years we're still friends, and we met in the Scouts. And I think one of the first times we met was when we got our Queen Scout certificates, and we went on a uh, to go to Victoria, where I'm now living, but we were from Vancouver, and all the scouts from British Columbia came, and we got we had an award ceremony where we spent a weekend in Victoria. And this is where a picture of, I believe this is Ken on the front row and myself here on the back row, around the end of 1959, early 1960. And here's my Queen Scout certificate, which is dated January 31st, 1960. And I was with the 83rd Vancouver Troop. And it says, as Queen Scout, you've prepared yourself for service to God and your fellow men, and have shown yourself a worthy member of the Great Scout Brotherhood. May you continue under God's guidance to gain courage and strength to enable you to fully discharge your duty to your country. And it's signed by the Queen Scout for Canada, dated, Government House in Ottawa, January 31st, 1960. And a few months later, I got this certificate welcoming me to as a Rover Scout, because this is more for the more senior scouts now. And it says, I call upon you as a Rover Scout to enter into life as into a joyous adventure, facing difficulty with a smile and lending a hand in helpful service unto others. And this is also signed by who was our leader, Ron Altry. And he said, let me just expand this a little bit and I can probably read it a bit better. I trust you will do your best at all times henceforward. Best of luck, Skipper Altry. And Ron Altry was still, I spoke to him for many years until he was 90 something, and he passed away a few years ago. So I knew him over 60 years. And he was a great mentor to all of us and myself for sure. So Scouts had a big impact on me. I was an only child, and these were some of my brothers. And as I said, I've known Ken now and some of the others for over 60 years. Here's a picture of us camping, or this is Dave McGlynn, cooking over a fire. And on the badge he has on his shirt here, it says 83rd Pioneers, which was the scout troop that we belonged to. And there's also some of the activities, log rolling, and there was Dave on the log, seeing who could stay on the log longest. And the first fellow who fell in the water was the loser. And so those are some of the activities. Here's a picture of Ken and I. This backpack was my scout backpack, but this was 1962 when Ken and I were on our way off to go to hitchhike around Europe. So there's Ken and myself in 1962. And this was um, re um, a reunion with Ken and Mati and Dave and Ed, myself, and Perty and Ron Craig. Ron and Ed have passed away since then, but just Ken and Dave and myself met up just recently this past year. And my other experience, sorry, I jumped ahead, was recently when I was 2 years ago when I was in Nepal in one of the towns. I met the scout group, which was associated with the school I was at. And then they heard I was in Scouts, they adopted me. And on the weekend while I was there, they were going to the army base, and all the Scouts from the area were being shown around, and they had some activities. So I was a guest with them and saw lots of Scouts in Nepal. So that was my most recent contact with active scouts until I was in the museum this past week. And the reason I went to the museum was I had these magazines. In 1960, I started this magazine called The Thumbstick, and it was for rovering in British Columbia. And I had copies of them that Ron Altree, my scoutmaster, had collected in this binder. And he gifted it to us, and I still had it. And I said, what am I going to do with this? So I found the museum, which has only been in action for a couple years, just about 15 minutes from me. So I took it to the museum, and they were very happy to have them. And so this was a picture of the museum and it brought back lots of memories. In the bookcase here was a book that I used when I first started. It was called, let me expand this and show you. It's called Tenderfoot to Queen Scout. And that was the book here that I used. So I was flipping through it just this few days ago, bringing back lots of memories all about the badges and the different, first class and second class and becoming a Queen Scout. This was the book that I used, and it's always wonderful to see that. And then I put the thumbsticks. This is the magazine and the binder that Ron Altree had gifted me. And so it's now amongst the other items of the Rover Scouts. So this says here the Thumbstick magazine, and these were all a lot of items about Rover Scouts, including book that I read, which was, Rovering to Success by Lord Baden-Powell, the founder of Rover Scouts. So it was very fascinating to spend some time bringing nostalgia, looking at some of the books that I saw, some of the magazines. Of this Rover Rambler was magazines from 1956. I subscribed to that. Was the Canadian version for Rover Scouts, the Rover Rambler. And we had the Thumbstick magazine here in British Columbia, which I started printing. So that was my recent experience and long experience with scouting. Really had a positive impact on me. I really enjoyed it. And this hat, actually, I have a badge here. It's lots of badges. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a Rover Scout badge there. That amongst all these badges, this little one has an R and an S on it for Rover Scouts. So with that, I'll say adios, au revoir, wishing you, your family, and friends lots of love and laughter. And there's my nostalgic story about my visit to a museum, which brought back my memories of being a Boy Scout from early 1950s, around 1955, until I was, well, I still have some of friends from Rover Scouts to this day. So adios, au revoir, until next time from Fred and Notes of a Nomad.